from Red State, Nick Pappas. You ready for this? I know, I'm not a groupie. I don't have my pom-poms. I'm not a rockette. You can hear those guys and gals all day long, watch them on TV. But you're informed, and you're the best informed out there. Because I don't view this show as a show for propaganda or cheerleading. We get right down to the nub of the matter, don't we? In politics, he writes, there are popular talking points that get repeated so often they become their own form of gospel, even when cursory examinations of these claims can prove them to be weightless. You've all heard that 97% of climate scientists agree, or that women make 77 cents to a man's dollar for the same work, or Samantha Bee and Trevor Noah are funny, and so forth. As it turns out, much to the chagrin of Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump supporters alike, the notion that the United States has had its manufacturing base bled dry over the past few decades is another example of this. Stay with me. People hear and read headlines proclaiming the loss of American manufacturing jobs, like this one from CNN, which describes the loss of 5 million such jobs since 2000, and come to the conclusion that outsourcing must be the cause of it. Must be outsourcing. Must be companies going overseas. See all the boats? Oh, yeah. One after another. Whole conga line of companies going overseas. Well, not really. There are examples of companies moving overseas. The overall trend in manufacturing suggests that isn't even close to the primary threat to low, unskilled American labor. The threat is called technology. In all likelihood, it isn't a foreigner who took the job, but that nerdy kid that got shoved into a locker back in high school. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, real U.S. manufacturing output went up, not down, from 1987 to 2016. In fact, output is up a full 85.2% over the last 29 years, with current output having recovered to its pre-recession levels. This despite the implementation of that worst deal ever, NAFTA, quote unquote. So, what does this mean? The total production of our manufacturing sector is at an all-time high, growing at a rate faster than the population since the 1980s, and leading to a greater per capita production of goods in America than in 1987. At the same time, we are employing millions of fewer people in manufacturing than in years past. How can these both be true at the same time? It's due to automation and process improvements. If the United States manufacturing base is making more or better goods than before but employing fewer people, that's the result of finding ways to organize production better. Machines that run smoother, faster, and do more things, and perhaps additional factors like cheaper or more abundant raw materials or imported parts. In a world without trade agreements, manufacturing output per worker would still be higher. Let me repeat that. Would still be higher than before due to these improvements, meaning the total number of people required to make the same volumes and kinds of goods will still be decreasing. In other words, even if protectionism did work, and it certainly doesn't, and you could keep, quote-unquote, some additional jobs in the U.S., it would just be a Band-Aid, a temporary fix, as these jobs would end up going away with more production improvements anyway. In fact, if anything, we could expect more automation to result from trade restrictions. If it's cheaper to go with robots, but even cheaper to outsource, many companies will likely do the third, outsource. But if you take away that option of outsourcing, they will go with the second cheapest, which is to automate as much as possible by investing in new physical capital for their plants. It will also incentivize those behind the technology to develop it faster, since demand for such industrial tech would increase. You see, it's cheaper, faster, and more efficient to use technology in more ways than ever before. Just a couple months ago, Budweiser tested the first-ever shipment of goods from a self-driving truck, developed by a company named Otto. It was something that scared the hell out of a lot of truck drivers and others in the comment sections of YouTube, and we have a lot of wonderful truck drivers in the audience here. Politicians aren't going to help you. Whether you're white-collar or blue-collar, working class or a business owner, CEO or janitor, the current manifestation of our federal government and many state governments is a disaster that makes things worse. Tax reform, regulatory reform, repealing and overhauling Obamacare, and more can and will make things better. But it won't fix the long-term picture. And I would add that's because capitalism is about economic expansion and progress. While some businesses contract and even die, other businesses are sprung and expand. This is a structural transformation, he writes, just as we transitioned from an agriculture-based economy to an industrial one. We're moving faster and faster into the information age, and it's time more people put their heads and talents towards adapting. You may not like this, but he's right.